I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi! Silly Jedi!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello, what have we here?
Hello there.
At last! Where have you been?
Nice of you guys to drop by.
Ah, good. New acquisitions.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jedi Toy Masters Star Wars Card Talk, Episode 3. That's right, the third episode. No, it's not Revenge of the Sith. However, it could be, because we're going to talk very briefly about Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. That's right, The Rise of Skywalker. I'll never forget when I finally, that title was revealed. I believe it was at Celebration. I mean, I wasn't there, but I was watching it live when after they did the interviews with J.J. Abrams and everything, and they unveiled the, that little teaser. And at the end, you see the rise of Skywalker with the epic fanfare. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's an interesting title, because there had been rumors that the title maybe was going to be like The Balance of the Force, or all kinds of, different types of titles that kind of conveyed the idea of something with the Force. In the first one, it was The Force Awakened. And then, we dealt with The Last Jedi, and then the repercussions of that. And now, this would be the end chapter. So The Rise of Skywalker sounded interesting to me, because it begs so many questions. First of all, what Skywalker are they talking about? Are they talking about Luke Skywalker? Are they talking about the Skywalker lineage? If so, then who's the next Skywalker? Because really, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren he's got the Skywalker blood in him, but he's not really a Skywalker. I mean, I don't know. So maybe the fact that Anakin was born of a mother but had no father, which I don't know. There's comic books that reference the fact that maybe Palpatine impregnated or created using the Force. He created Anakin using the Force in Shmi Skywalker's womb. Then why is her name Shmi Skywalker? George Lucas has gone on to say in interviews in the past that Skywalker, he considers that like the Smith of Star Wars. So that's kind of like it's like Smith. Nobody pays too much attention to that last name. And that's why Darth Vader never thought about, searching out Skywalker, which is just lame. It's just a lame excuse. It's kind of poor. I don't want to say poor writing, but just poor mythology building. And as far as building, coming up with a good, I don't know what would be a more valid excuse. I mean, maybe, not to get off topic, but maybe Vader never discovered Luke and Leia because, obviously returning to Tatooine would be something very, he didn't want to confront his past. Anakin Skywalker is dead, and, he didn't want to go back there. Maybe because of the fact that Obi-Wan is there, maybe through the Force somehow he's managed to kind of, mask the idea that Luke is there, a baby Luke and little boy Luke. Likewise with Alderaan, maybe they just never. I mean, then again, with Princess Leia and Alderaan, it was a lot easier because they could have just said, "Oh no, this is the daughter of Bail Organa and his wife." But anyway, Skywalker. What does that mean, Skywalker? I happen to be of the camp that believes that because of The Last Jedi and because that movie kind of signifies the end of the Jedi as we knew it in the prequels and as we knew it in the original trilogy, Because when you think about it, Jedi in the prequels they were very kind of like dogmatic, very like kind of religious traditionalists in the Force, in the good side of the Force. And I think that to a degree was their downfall, because they and Luke kind of, the one piece of dialogue that I really like in The Last Jedi is when Luke talks to Rey about how, in their hubris, the Jedi, in the top of the Jedi Order, they allowed a Sith to rise to power and overthrow create the Empire, and I think he sees that it's because they were blind to what they had become. They had become this large, almost religious organization that was kind of like merging politics with government and this religious order, and all that kind of failed. And it's of course it's an allegory of, I don't know, call it what you will, maybe, whatever religious entity you think, fill in the blank, maybe takes things a little bit off course and lose what the meaning of what they believe is. And, you kind of lose the fabric, you lose that cornerstone of what it's all about. It's about love and serving others and doing unto others how you would want done unto you, and that kind of thing. But again, not to get off topic. So in the prequels, the Jedi were kind of that. And so that ended, that died. The last of that was Obi-Wan and Yoda. And so in the original trilogy, it was kind of teaching Luke how to be a Jedi based on the knowledge of the Force that Obi-Wan and Yoda had, but also Luke kind of bringing it to another level in that he showed compassion towards Vader, and he said, he could be turned, and it was love, like that that love. I mean, Anakin even says it in Episode 2 that, Jedi, his interpretation was, well, Jedi are encouraged to love, because they're supposed to have empathy and compassion for, everybody. So anyway, that's what Luke kind of demonstrated, but maybe in his attempt to restructure and rebuild the Jedi Order, he kind of fell a little bit into that dogmatic view of it, and when he failed with Kylo, or he feels that he failed with Kylo, he feels that the Jedi need to end because it happened again. I tried to do it differently, and it happened again. So Skywalker could be, all that to say is that it's my opinion that Skywalker is going to be kind of like what the new term for not Jedi, but Force users, folk that are powerful in the Force, that represent peace and, peacekeeping and spreading goodness and love and, protecting and, all that good stuff in the Force. That would be Skywalker. So, and I think because of what happened in The Last Jedi, where Luke appeared and kind of like, faced down the First Order by himself, and then, stories of that will, probably, started to spread and all that. So as we saw in the end of the movie, the little kids are talking about it. That just made the legend of Luke Skywalker that much bigger. And I think eventually maybe the name Luke begins to kind of be forgotten in the retelling of these adventures and of this folklore, this legend. Eventually it stops being, oh, this is what Luke Skywalker did, and the legend of Luke Skywalker, and it just becomes the legend of Skywalker. And so then the rise of Skywalker is this idea that, if you believe in these values and these virtues, and you are, powerful in the Force, and you're able to tap into the Force, then, you can be part of this Skywalker lineage. And so the rise of Skywalker, I think, is going to be that. It's going to be kind of like the end of the Jedi and the Force Force users as we know it, you know, the dark side, the light side. I think the perfect balance, when they say, you know, the balance of the Force, the perfect balance of the Force would be to have the light and the dark in the individual. So not have one person representing the light and one person representing the dark, and having the Force kind of dictate that balance, but maybe that balance lies in the individual, having the light and the dark. Because, I mean, you know, not to get spiritual or philosophical, but that's life. That's a human experience. We are both light and dark. We experience times of good and times of bad. We are all susceptible to be tempted and to fall, but at the same time, we all have the opportunity to change and be redeemed. So it is that balance of light and dark in all of us. And so the Rise of Skywalker, I think, is this new idea that the balance of the Force, the balance of the light and the dark, is within each of us. And I think that's what Rey is. Rey is, I think, I don't want to say the perfect balance, but I think Rey encapsulates, is that the right word? She is that example of a good balance of the Force, because she is good at heart, but she also seems to tap into the dark side, the aggression, the anger, and does so to her advantage, but is able to come back. I mean, if you see in, you know, when she confronts Kylo Ren in the forest in The Force Awakens, the way she battles, and, you know, she's able to tap into kind of like that anger and aggression, and that's, I think, what kind of overpowers Kylo. Then in The Last Jedi, when they're battling at the end with all those guards, and she's again using that aggressive feeling. I mean, that's what Palpatine would say to Luke when he was battling Vader. You know, like, use your aggressive feeling, boy. You know? So, yeah, you know, just kind of talking this out, I think I'm kind of convincing myself that I think is going to play into this movie, into The Rise of Skywalker, is the idea that Rey is not so much the chosen one, but she is that balance of the Force that the Force has been trying to establish, but we as flawed individuals, you know, the Jedi, the Sith, we've tried to take that power and make it one-sided. You know, the Jedi took the Force and made the Force all light. No, it has to be all light. It has to be this, and we can't do this and we can't do that. And it became very dogmatic and religious. The Sith, on the other hand, said, no, let's take this power. Let's take this power and let's use it for ourselves, for selfishness and, you know, greed and oppression and to rule. And I think there needs to be a balance, and not so much a balance where there needs to be equal amounts of good people and equal amounts of bad people in the Force. I think the balance needs to be in the individual. So that's interesting. That's an interesting idea of the Rise of Skywalker, that moving forward, the Skywalkers are going to be just that, the Skywalkers. They're walking that line in the sky, good and evil, you know, light and dark. So what do you guys think? That's an interesting idea. If you're enjoying this video, this little Star Wars cart talk, please make sure you like and subscribe. If you're listening to this later on in podcast form, thank you for listening. Please make sure you subscribe as well and you spread the word. I'd love to know what you think Rise of Skywalker means. I know there's been tons of videos and speculations out there, but what are we going to see in the Rise of Skywalker? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And also, what's this whole thing about Emperor Palpatine being in this movie? Now, at the time of this recording, the new trailer hasn't dropped yet. So as soon as that trailer drops, the Monday Night Football October 21st trailer, I will be doing a reaction video with the Jedi Toy Masters. And I will probably do a little follow-up video where I kind of dive a little deeper into what we saw in that trailer. And looking forward to that. So that'll probably be kind of the episode, either an episode after this one, or it'll be a special episode, which will be a video on the YouTube channel. So the Rise of Skywalker, you know, the more I think about this, the more I'm more and more intrigued just with the title. You know, you almost don't even need another trailer. Everyone that loves Star Wars is gonna go see this movie. Everyone that maybe is like okay with Star Wars is gonna go see this movie, because the people that love Star Wars are gonna drag the people that are like indifferent to Star Wars. They're gonna drag them to go see this movie. And you know, I think, not for nothing, but we live in a time where there's so many movies. You know, we're bombarded with movies. There's movies coming out every weekend at the theater. At the movie theater, there's movies dropping on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and all. You know, there's all this original content being pumped out everywhere that I believe that the blockbuster is becoming, is kind of something that we, I don't want to say need, but it's something that we look forward to, I think, as a society that love going to the movies. I think, you know, when Avengers Endgame came out, you know, that was a thing. Like, that was such a big thing in the sense that, you know, people looked forward to, oh man, like, you know, I haven't really been watching a lot of these Marvel movies, but I'll definitely go see this Avengers movie. This looks epic. And then the word of mouth spread, and people said that, you know, people started talking about it, and more people went to go see it. So I think it's the same thing with Star Wars. I mean, it's hard to think and fathom and believe that there are people out there that don't even know what Star Wars is, or that don't even like Star Wars. I'm sure there are, and then there's probably a lot of people that are very indifferent to Star Wars. But one thing is certain, that when you know that a Star Wars movie is coming out, you know, people drop what they're doing and people go check it out. So I think even with or without this next trailer that's going to drop, The Rise of Skywalker will be a huge hit. Even if we go see this movie as a collective Star Wars community and we hate it, we're still going to go see it multiple times, because that's what we do. We go and we go and we go. We see it again. We see it 3-4 times, and we talk about it. We analyze it, and we regurgitate it, and we chew it again, and we swallow it again. That's what we do. We are Star Wars fans. We absorb this stuff. We inhale it. We love it. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments below, what is your take? What is The Rise of Skywalker to you? What do you think? I've already shared kind of like what I think, and I believe it has a lot to do with who Rey is, and moving forward, the idea that there's not going to be a Jedi Order anymore, or Sith. There's going to be this kind of spreading of a message of balance, good, you know, light and dark, balance in the individual Force user, and it could open up a whole new idea of what the Force is. You know, Luke made an interesting point, and I'll end here. In The Last Jedi, he said, you know, that you feel, the, you know, light, dark, death, life, you know, that's the Force. And, you know, to think that the Jedi are the only one that can use this power is foolishness. And it's true. Now, we can go into this in another episode, but, you know, George Lucas kind of originally had this idea of the Wills, the Journal of the Wills, which are supposed to be these beings that they're the ones that are kind of observing these tales in these movies. That's why it's episodes. That's why they're episode 1, episode 2, and you know, So that's an interesting idea, that it's way bigger than what we see, than these little stories that of the Skywalker and all that stuff. Like, what we see is small in comparison to the overarching story of the Force. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing moving forward after we conclude this Skywalker saga, to see what happens next. You know, what other trilogies or Star Wars films will we get that have to do with the Force and people that use the Force, you know, moving forward. That's why I think Rise of Skywalker is going to play into that. It's going to be no more Jedi Sith. It's going to be moving into a new era. And again, it goes back to what I said in the last episode, if you didn't hear it. Disney wants to basically erase and reboot, not erase, but reboot Star Wars. And the way they've been doing it is by slowly chipping away at the layers of Star Wars-ness that we are familiar with. The original characters, the idea of what the Force is, the Sith and the Jedi, all these things are being chipped away. They're basically, just putting a nice thick layer of primer over Star Wars so that they can go in after this Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. They can then go in and now paint on a clean canvas and make Star Wars whatever the heck they want. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we still have the original trilogy. We can always go back and watch. We still have a lot of great content out there. The prequels, the Clone Wars series, Star Wars Rebels. We have, Rogue One and Solo. I think for what they were, I think they're pretty good movies. They're entertaining, and I love diving into that era of Star Wars during the time of the Empire. It's like this classic era, and I think there's still a lot of stuff there. There's, The Mandalorian and the Cassian Andor series and the Obi-Wan series. All these things, I think, even if after all that, Disney starts doing really crazy, horrible Star Wars content and trilogies later on, you know what? At least we have what we have right now, and we can live off that. I mean, for a long time as Star Wars fans, we only had the trilogy. And now we have a lot more to talk about and to watch and to, play with. It's a big playground now, and we have a lot more toys to play with. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents here on Jedi Toy Masters Star Wars Talk. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. And to get notified when these videos drop, make sure you hit the bell. If you're listening to this in podcast form, thank you again for listening. Please make sure you subscribe and spread the word. Also, follow us on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters. We're on there as well. Until the next time, may the Force be with you.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
You're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
What are you talking about?